So I have to tell you, speaking in front of 1,000 people on Rosh Hashanah is nothing compared to this crowd. All right. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay, I'll speak softer. I want to recognize our founder and innovator, Rabbi William David Rudolph is here. It's terrific. And the Fresser of Fressers, David and Jackie, who sponsored this gluttonous feast since the very beginning, and it is greatly appreciated. And as you can tell, I have been doing extensive research on this for years to prepare, this being the first of my Deli sermons. Those that have been here each year know that there has been a limited number of people who have had the honor of offering this talk over the years. That Rabbi Rudolph. Then one year we had the Deli guy that wrote the author that wrote that book, and he was interesting and a flop because it just was not funny at all, but it was very, very interesting. And so I learned a lot, but didn't laugh very much. Chazan Klein did it once, and then last year Dave himself offered. So I am certainly intimidated by this, but often as Rabbi Rudolph was thinking of that this would be the last year, he would tell me, he would dream of a new direction to take the talk. It's important that the talk doesn't get stale like day-old bread, and we're just getting warmed up here, don't worry. And while the Deli sermon will need to be put back on the shelf one day, returned to the lunch counter, into the deli display case, that is not today. That just as a cucumber transforms the longer it stays in the brine, ultimately coming out as a wonderfully tasty and flavor-rich pickle, well, it also gets sour, and I hope you aren't getting more sour. But the Deli sermon may also be finding new flavors the longer we marinate with it. So here is my personal reflections on Deli. Now, first, the origins of the Deli, that from the wonderful resource of Wikipedia, that the word delicatessen is actually, it's a German word which first appeared in English in 1889. This is a fact, according to Wikipedia. But in German, it was originally a French word, so I don't know why we didn't just say it was a French word, but that the German took it from the French, meaning a delicious thing to eat. Its root word is from Latin, of course, which means giving pleasure, delightful, and pleasing. I'm sure you've heard those facts before, since I'm sure Rabbi Rudolph and Dave and Chazan Klein all looked at that same Wikipedia page. But the first Americanized short version of the word deli only came into existence in 1954. Very, very late. So the German food company Dellmayr, right? Dellmayr. Today they're still in existence. They're a huge German coffee manufacturer and also deli. They're credited with being the first delicatessen ever created. In 1700, believe it or not, 1700, they became a store that had nothing to do with deli meats as we know it, but they imported bananas and mangoes and plums to the German population, which of course qualifies for that word delicatessen of pleasing things to eat. And they imported it to Germany from faraway places like the Canary Islands and even as far as China. But 300 years later, that same company by that same name is one of the largest businesses of its kind in all of Europe. The delicatessen came to the United States in, of course, New York City, right? As the Germans came to America and settled in New York City. They came in the mid-1800s, and the first known word, as we know it, of delicatessen for deli meats is 1885. So now we have the facts of what we're talking about. But as I was sitting down to write this, I was actually eating a salad. Now, it was a beautiful salad. I know, my doctor's not even here to hear the praise, right? It was a beautiful salad. I mean, it had pears and fancy cheese and nuts and one of these that you pay way too much for, right? That when I asked for, oh, my doctor is here. So when I paid a little extra to get a little protein, so I had a boiled egg put on it, I could have bought a dozen at Giant for the price I paid for having this one egg put on it. But my taste glands were in overdrive as I was thinking about the gastronomic delights of the Jewish deli as I was sitting there with my poor salad, or at least the salad that made me poor. The excessive schmaltz and chopped liver, the gloriousness of hot pastrami, and don't even get me started on the importance of pairing all of this with just the right deli mustard. Right? Plain, drab, yellow mustard has no place in the Jewish deli. And I dare say it is one of the shames that I have about our beloved Bethel community, that we too often serve yellow mustard to the neglect of the flavorful, complex textures of true deli mustard. But don't worry, today I hear there are 3 mustard choices for today's lunch. I made sure. But deli mustard, you may ask, what does he know from deli mustard?
What does he know from deli mustard?
Thank you for asking. So allow me this tangent. You may not know this about me, but I love condiments, right? The kids are in the back, right? It's true. Our refrigerator is stocked full of condiments. Hot sauces, sweet sauces, mustards fill the Harris refrigerator. Now, in 2014, I was visiting Madison, Wisconsin for my cousin's bat mitzvah. And it was great. The bat mitzvah was wonderful. That their congregation meets in the Unitarian Meeting House, which was designed by, does anyone know? Right, Frank Lloyd Wright. So it was beautiful on many, many levels. So we're sitting, my mom and I are sitting at the brunch on Sunday afternoon at my cousin's house, and we're talking about what else to do. And lo and behold, 10 miles away from where we were sitting in Middleton, Wisconsin, is the National Mustard Museum. I have been there now. Right? So, of course, we went on a tour. Now, it's a 2-story temple to mustard. Mustard memorabilia of all sorts. If we were using PowerPoint, I would be able to show you pictures of my mom and mustard and more mustard and me with mustard, and it was an incredible place. And of course, there was the opportunity to taste hundreds of types of mustard from all around the world. It's got to be on your list to go. Right? So you can get just a stick. They'll give you a stick of any of the mustards that they have, hundreds of ones out, and of course, many, many, many for purchase. You can put some on a cracker if you would like, or for a little extra money, you can buy a soft pretzel, a classic platform for mustard. But as our president says, believe me when I say the world of mustard is a lot broader than French's yellow classic mustard. But I must be getting back to the meat of my talk. So I was eating my salad when I got a text from a Bethel member. Now, the world is full of miracles. This was just the other day. I was sitting out the Veterans Plaza, right, BGR and Jetties and stuff like that right there in that little plaza right there. And I got this text from a Bethel member. It had 2 pictures in it, no text at all. One was him outside Katz's Deli, and the other was this enormous bowl that looked tiny compared to the matzo ball inside the bowl, with a classic, one of the classic egg creams next to it. Now, it was a delight to be seen, and of course perfectly timed, as I was dreaming of exactly that. And the matzo ball, let me just tell you about that some more. I'm salivating just thinking about it. It looked like a medieval projectile for a catapult. That's how huge it was, and it was a spherical masterpiece right there in the bowl. So interesting to me, it was interesting to me that someone needed to text their rabbi of their deli experience. Because deli is far more than food. It is part of the American Jewish soul and our arteries. Eating at a deli is an act of identity. Thus, even though a deli may not even be kosher, and Katz's is not kosher, it feels Jewish. And we feel Jewish when we're there. So when you express your Jewishness, it's always best to bring your rabbi into it too, I guess. And that's why he texted me. But I didn't grow up in the heart of deli culture. In the suburbs of San Francisco in the 1970s, I will just tell you, it is not Houston Street, it is not Skokie, it is not Squirrel Hill, but I did have David's Delicatessen. Now, David's Delicatessen wasn't a Jewish deli at all. It was pretty blue collar. And at that time, and I will do an al-chet for this, my favorite sandwich as a young child was turkey breast, like pieces of turkey, not slices of turkey, right? We're okay there. Turkey breast with lettuce and mayo on white bread. I am shamed in public. I bare my soul to you. Right? Totally goyisha. But don't worry, because later I found in Proverbs, I'm excused, because in the book of Proverbs, it says, young people are prone to foolishness and fads. And I was. But times changed, and David's became a hardware store, and eventually Burger King moved onto the street as the first chain store to come to that. And today, Burlingame Avenue is all high-end boutique stores, boutiques and jewelry shops and sushi and various eateries, clothing stores in which if you really knew deli, you would never fit into any of these clothes. But Brothers Delicatessen, just off of Burlingame Avenue, was really the Jewish deli of my youth. Now, it wasn't owned by anyone Jewish. It was a Korean couple that owned it, of course. But my grandparents, Ben and Pauline, lived just a block or two away from Brothers Delicatessen. And somehow the Jewish deli was a place for us to be. It was truly an American story. That every Sunday morning growing up, my grandparents would come to our house with bagels and lox and cream cheese. They would also bring salami and coleslaw and a few other things that we had breakfast before we went to religious school. We would get out for the 49ers games, and then we would go home for the salami and everything else. So deli was a big part of growing up on Sunday mornings in my house. But eating at Brothers was also a joy. Matzah brie year-round, right? Pumpernickel bread. But for some reason in my house, the bagels never came from Brothers. They only came from the House of Bagels a couple blocks away. So to put this Sunday morning feast together, there were multiple stops all around town. But I always knew that I could count on that on a Sunday morning in my home. So going to Brothers was a good place to be, to run into people from the neighborhood or from the temple. We didn't call it a shul. I grew up Reform, as you could tell by the sandwich, and so that we called it a temple. But it was a community gathering place. That before the idea of the third place, work, home, and the third place was coined by sociologist Ray Ollenberg and exploited by Starbucks, the deli was the third place. But the world of deli is changing. And in many ways, delis are an edible metaphor for how we have been accepted into America, assimilated, and that things are changing. So today, the term Jewish deli means something special. It is not related to Mount Sinai or Moses, and it's no longer related to kashrut. the idea of the Jewish deli. But Jewish deli is an expression of a feeling, an ambiance, and yes, of course, a menu selection. So, but I heard this I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard the story that there were 2 sandwiches sitting at the deli counter. So it's not true, 2 sandwiches. Katzi is giving me this look here. Yeah. So there are 2 sandwiches sitting at the deli counter. One was a veggie sandwich, and the other, we'll say, is the pastrami sandwich. No, we'll say that it's a turkey sandwich, because that's what I've been talking about today. So the veggie sandwich says, hey man, if you could be any kind of sandwich, what would you be? And the turkey sandwich says that he wasn't really in the mood. I'm tired. I don't feel like having a deep conversation right now, Mr. Veggie Sandwich. But the veggie sandwich persisted. He said, I'm sorry to bug you. It's just that I'm doing this study for a class and I need to know your response in order to fully understand the psyche and whims of a turkey sandwich. I promise just one question. And the turkey sandwich replied, look, okay, I'm happy just being a turkey sandwich. I know I'm not the most exotic food item out there, but I'm content with my situation. The veggie sandwich tried to take a more motivational approach. Come on, I'm not trying to imply that you're not awesome. Of course you are. But surely you have dreams. We all have dreams. If you could be any kind of sandwich in the world, what would you be? And the turkey sandwich was still reluctant to enter into any deep philosophical conversation with the veggie sandwich, but he said, fine. If pressed, I would be a panini. So, if pressed, I would have to say that Jewish deli is far more an expression of identity than just a meal. It reminds us of the days before Lipitor, when we could enjoy clogged arteries and we didn't even know any better. A deli connects us with a sense of commonplace and of belonging. And that is what is so desperately needed today. A place of nostalgia is served with some kreplach, because even though those days were no better than this day, we can be momentarily transported to a sense of community and belonging, which we sorely lack today. So brothers went the way of Krupins and of Duke Zieberts, but a few times a year I jump on the Vamoose bus to New York City, and I make my way to Second Avenue Deli for an outrageous sandwich. It overstuffs my stomach and it fills my soul. So at this time of Zman Simchatenu, the time of our joy, let's enjoy some deli and each other's company. Chag Sameach.